Okay, so I'm here with my friend Rebekah White. Rebekah and I met a few years ago. We both recorded our stories for Restore Our Humanity, but today we are going to have a conversation about Rebekah's abuse and where do you want to start? What do you want to tell me?
Well, that's quite the lead, isn't it? Putting all the pressure on me.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, back in 94. Crap, I should probably get my facts straight. I don't want to say the wrong thing.
Don't even worry
Don't
about
even
it.
worry about
We'll
it. Okay.
fix it.
When
if
I was
it's-
14, how's that?
Yeah, there we go.
There we go. No one can fact check when I was born. Okay. When I was 14, my mom was pretty upset with Elton John getting a lot of attention in the news. He was promoting his new album, all that stuff. So she was saying some pretty bad things about homosexuals and how
God
how
forbid.
bad things should happen to them so they don't get attention, stuff like that. And I stood up because, it was the 90s, it was a new era.
Right.
Our generation's a little different. And I stood up and said, they're just people, leave them alone. No reason to hate them. They didn't do anything wrong. And she freaked out thinking I was a lesbian and put me through conversion therapy. But the thing is I wasn't told I was going to be put through conversion therapy. I was told I was going to BYU Education Week, the one they have in August.
So was it at Education Week or?
Well, it was at BYU during Education Week, but it was in the basement of one of the buildings.
Huh.
So
I wonder how she found out about it.
my grandma was highly involved in the program. She would fix psychopaths and homosexuals
Yeah.
by, doing their thing. But,
So she took you to this. Was there a group of people, or how many people were there?
no, it was very dark. There was the person programming, performing the experience. I'm not sure who he was. I'm sure people know who he was. I think he was pretty well known as the one who would do the program.
Yeah.
But I don't know who he was.
Yeah.
Just know he was a lot older than me.
Yeah, which is weird anyway. But so you go down in this dark room, and what happened?
There's a chair there. They did a lot of spinning.
Spinning you in the chair?
Yeah, it creates confusion and puts your body in a state of shock.
Okay, that's just crazy.
Yeah. If your body is in a state of shock, you are in survival mode.
Right.
And it becomes more of a response instead of a thinking. So you respond to whoever is there to save you, kind
Right.
of thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
There's a lot of scientific stuff to explain it better than me, but there was a lot of spinning and there was a lot of electrical shock.
So where did they place the shock pads? Is that what they are? Like.
Yeah, they had some on my knees, my elbows, my head. I think in my belly. If I remember right.
Crazy.
There was a long time after that where I had heart problems from the abuse that I had to get EKGs a lot.
Oh,
and
wow.
the Band-Aids would give me, the things that they stick on me would give me an emotional response where it was an actual allergic reaction
Wow.
because of it. But they would have me watch gay porn, and that's when they would produce weird smells to make it offensive, like weird body smells.
Ugh.
So you'd get nauseous at the thought of sex, right? And They
like
would
you needed
also
help with
shock
that because
if
you weren't gay.
right, right. Well, I wasn't interested in sex at all. I was 14 and I was abused my whole life. I was practically asexual. So, I mean, yeah.
No need for it one
There,
way or the other.
there were, yeah, no way. No one needs it. You don't
Yeah.
need to be fixed.
Yeah.
But the shock, if there was any response, they would shock to make it a negative shock and also to wipe the programming out of your memory.
So, how did they? These foul smells? How did they recreate those?
I
Or-
don't know. I mean, back then they had fart sprays. They had all kinds of stuff, you know.
God.
I'm sure they had some potion
Yeah.
BYU made in chemistry, you know.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure the background of everything,
Yeah.
but I just know what I experienced.
Yeah.
But it definitely,
That's so nasty.
yeah. Yeah.
It makes me sick to my stomach.
They had the big TVs in front, so that it seemed like anything they were, because you're in a state of confusion. I'm sure they used drugs also. I'm positive of it. But the TV made it a reality, so when you have flashbacks, it kind of seems like a dream or a vision or a mission from God to keep you in the church and keep you straight. So, I mean,
Wow.
the whole thing is very tricky and, yeah,
Disturbing.
very disturbing,
Yeah.
very manipulative.
Crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And that was your grandmother that.
My
Or your mother.
my mom is the one who accused me of being gay,
Right.
and my grandma's the one who took me because
Took
she
you.
was highly involved with the people in that program.
Crazy.
She
And
would-
that was when you were 14.
Mhm.
And then when you were 15, tell me about this guy.
Okay. Well, at 14, I was a tiny bit rebellious, not a bad kid, just not wanting to go to church, not really young woman's type, more into worldly things, like I was a skater chick,
Like normal teenager things.
normal teenager things.
Yeah.
But I had straight A's, I was really good kid, didn't do anything wrong, but not Mormon-y.
Yeah.
And after the shock therapy, I felt, because of the weird things that I was experiencing, like the visions of doomsday and things that they put in front of me on that screen, made me feel like I needed to be a more Mormon-y
Uh-huh.
person. And so I tried really hard. So I was a very Mormon-y, very quiet, not into dating boys, girls, either way. I was
Yeah.
just focused on seminary and all that stupid stuff. But and then this guy comes along, and he grew up in the ward, but he was never there. He was never active. But all of a sudden he became active. And he was 10 years older than me. I think, if I remember right. He was 10 years older. I'm really sorry if the facts are wrong. Should I say that over?
No, not even.
He was a lot older than me.
Yeah.
But he showed interest, but everyone knew he was gay. It was very obvious. And I thought it was very weird that he was showing interest, and I thought it was very weird that my mom was very supportive. And
At
that
the age of 15?
At
Yeah.
age of 15.
Whether he was
in the
9 or
Mormon
10 years
church.
older, that's
Yeah.
way too old.
Yeah, in my experience, as I was at this time trying to be very Mormon-y, you don't date till you're 16. So I was very confused by it, but my mom had never given me positive reinforcement attention. And so I took advantage of that attention she was giving me and played along.
Can tell you, my mother would not be happy about that with me at all.
Yeah?
At that age, yeah.
Yeah, it's a little weird,
Yeah,
huh?
yep.
Yeah, it's a little, it was very confusing, but I really enjoyed having a mother
Yeah.
because I never
Well,
had one.
Yeah.
So at this time, he never touched me. He didn't hold hands. It was nothing like that. It was just him pretending he wanted to spend time with me, and I got attention from my mother. So
Probably worked for for him as well, because he felt like he was, like you felt like he was being a good person by not touching you.
Right.
And it appeared to the outsiders that he was straight, even though he wasn't having to engage in anything with you because...
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly how I took it. And I figured he was about to go on his mission. I figured he would just leave, and so I'll just play along. Because there was nothing bad going on at that time. I didn't consider it dating because we weren't doing anything.
Right. Right.
It was just weird. He'd come over for visits at dinner time and stuff.
Yeah.
And anyway, then the night before his mission farewell, it was a Saturday night, he said he had to work late, so we had to go to the last session. But it was pretty late, so I'm not quite sure the temple was actually open anymore. Like, it was after the
hours.
after the last session, because we were the only ones there. We did baptisms for the dead, because I was only 15.
So how did you get... He took you there?
Mm-hmm. He drove me by himself.
Crazy. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And so we go to the Salt Lake Temple and go down to the baptisms, and we do the baptisms, and he did the baptisms on me. I guess that's normal. I've only done it. That's the only time I've ever done baptisms without a young women's group.
I did baptisms for the dead with some young youth groups, so it was like all of us going. They had people there that I don't even think were... I think they were temple workers.
Temple workers did it?
I think.
Because I think when I did
I don't remember.
Activities, it was one of the leaders did it.
Maybe. I honestly don't remember.
Yeah, it's hard to say.
I did it once. Yeah.
I was only 15. I didn't really understand how the thing worked. You always just follow the crowd
right.
at that age.
Yep. Exactly.
But so after we did the baptisms, you go in the separate bathrooms because, you know, he's male, I'm female. And you change into clothes so that you get the, what is it, conversion or the Holy Ghost thing? The ritual after the baptisms?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
What's it called?
I don't even know.
But you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I do. Yep. There's a wet ceremony and a dry ceremony.
Yes, the burning ceremony.
Yeah.
You get the Holy Ghost. So after that, and usually you just get this ugly jumpsuit, right?
Right.
And
With buttons, I remember, yeah.
Yeah, or zipper or something.
Yeah, uh-huh.
And this lady, this worker, comes in, which was really bizarre because I was by myself in the bathroom, and I was going to get dressed, and she comes in and says, "No, you can't wear that." And she hands me one of the, I wouldn't say fancy. They're not fancy.
Yeah,
but it was a dress instead of a jumpsuit.
Gotcha.
And I thought it was weird. I was a little uncomfortable with it because I didn't want to do anything different than normal. Because,
right.
you know, doing what everyone else is doing is the Mormon thing.
Right.
And if you step out of line, it's
You're in trouble.
A little weird. Yeah. So I was really uncomfortable with it, but she was very firm about it. So I put it on, and I go into the room that's just off the font room to do the whatever that ceremony is.
Uh-huh.
Dang it, I wish I knew the name.
The blessing. I don't know. It's like a blessing, I think.
Yeah, you get the Holy Ghost.
Yeah.
But I don't know what it's...
Like you wash your sins.
Is it confirmation?
I don't remember. Maybe.
Oh, well. Anyway, and in that room, that man that I was dating was sitting there, and he had that funny hat on. I'd never seen temple clothes at this point.
I only just recently saw him.
Really?
So the hats, yeah.
Yeah, the hats. And he was wearing that hat, and then there was a few other men, temple workers in white. I was surrounded by men. There were no women in there at all. I was the only girl. It was only two of us going through this session. So they, strangely, I was very uncomfortable with this. I actually refused because you don't eat in the temple. You don't do anything like this in the temple.
Yeah.
I had done baptisms for the dead many, many times, and I've never experienced anything like this. But they had one of those punch things with the spout.
Uh-huh.
They had two of them.
Uh-huh.
One was, I think, blue, and one was red.
Huh.
And they gave me one color, and they gave him another color. And I refused, and he said, no, you need to drink it. They were very, the priesthood.
I bet you there was Viagra in his, and there was some I bet you there was some sedative or something in yours.
There was definitely a sedative because the memories after I drank it was very blurry. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it was very, very blurry, even though I can tell what was going on.
That's
If that
just
makes
crazy.
sense. But they weren't very firm with him drinking his. They made sure that they didn't even start talking until I finished mine.
Yeah.
But it tasted awful, tasted like medicine. And I'm like, I'm just going to chug it down so they get off my back.
Yeah. Yeah, when you're that age, you just do what you're told. You're in the temple. You think
You're in the
that-
temple with these priesthood
Right.
holders. The
Yeah.
temple where you do what they're told. That's what they
I
tell
wouldn't even
you.
have dared to say no.
Yeah, you don't want to be removed from the kingdom of God.
Right? Right.
Yeah, so
The kingdom of God.
I
yeah.
was very submissive at that age.
Well, of course.
You know,
After all you'd been through, of course. Yeah.
yeah, you definitely, in your subconscious, you feel like you're going to get tortured if you do something wrong, so you don't at that point
Yeah.
in time. So.
Yeah. So then,
And then after they could tell that whatever they put in that drink kicked in, they performed a marriage ceremony on us, which
and that's like you kneel down at a bench or something. Is that?
yes, it was just like the temple ceremony.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I didn't like. Again, I had just recently saw that. I was shocked.
Yeah.
I mean, I quit going to church when I was 15 or 16.
Yeah.
So I didn't see any of that stuff.
Yeah.
It just is bizarre to me.
Yeah.
It's like it's not even the same religion. It's like there's
Yeah. You walk
the
in
outside Mormon religion, and then
Yeah.
there's the inside the temple Mormon religion. That's just really creepy to me. But
Yeah,
anyway,
when I went through the temple for the first time at 28 years old, I was shocked. I'm like, people come here more than once. I was looking around at all the people who like actually come here every day for their temple calling, you know. Why?
yeah,
Anyway, so they performed a ceremony marrying us spiritually, not legally.
right. Well, of course not legally because you're 15 years
They don't
old.
want any proof.
Yeah.
It was just because this man went through conversion therapy willingly.
Right.
to
And this
fix
was
himself.
like maybe proof to them that he had turned straight, or
Yeah.
so that
Well,
he was worthy to go on his
It's the way
mission.
to cure him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that makes sense. Anyway.
Right. Yes, because drugging and raping a 15-year-old is
Right. Yeah.
less of a sin.
Yeah. So after the ceremony,
After the ceremony, I jumped the gun, didn't I?
that's okay.
After the ceremony,
because it's not an everyday thing to talk about
right,
this kind of thing.
right.
This isn't something you get rehearsed at.
No,
We need to talk about it more. That's why we're here.
that's exactly right. Yeah, we need to talk about more of what is actually going on for
Yeah.
sure.
Yep.
But after the marriage ceremony, which me being under the influence of drugs, it comes back as a flashback. I mean, all the best thing about the Iraq War is the research that was demanded for PTSD.
PTSD.
And their PTSD is no different than children.
Well,
And adults.
there are studies that show now that when trauma is perpetrated by someone that the child trusts, the neurological effects last longer than combat PTSD.
There you go. Well, yes, absolutely, I can see that. But the results
Because it's easy to hate
and the actions.
someone that you're at war with who tried to kill you.
Yeah,
But someone
Yeah.
who you trust as a child
it's
is
very traumatic.
Yeah.
Yes, but the flashbacks and the way, the confusion, they're the same.
Yeah.
How they come out.
Yeah.
And makes the person look crazy.
Right.
I know a lot of people made fun of people in Vietnam when they had their flashbacks. They just called them crazy.
Well, I mean, I know that when both you and I told our story the first time, we both probably sounded a lot more crazy than we do now.
It's very possible.
Because we're farther down the road,
Yes.
and we have both
We've come
healed
out.
more. And,
Yeah, we've come out of our hell.
Yeah.
Yep.
So.
But after the ceremony,
Yes.
the marriage was consummated anally, so there was no proof.
And because wow, I can't even wrap my head around that.
If the person
Because
is left not a virgin,
right,
there's
then
obvious proof.
Yeah.
So.
And it doesn't count, I guess.
You know,
in
that
their
is,
eyes or something.
That
I don't know.
is a very.
I mean, I know teen Mormon girls that used to say that. Well, as long as
Well,
it's
the guys
not
convinced
the front.
them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Look, I knew a girl. I knew a girl in high school that couldn't figure out how she got pregnant because he only put it in once.
Oh.
And he had convinced her that there was no way that she could get pregnant if he just put it in once. But anyway, so yeah, not that hard to believe.
No. That is actually a common thing. I think bishops had to finally crack down on that. That's what I heard.
Yeah.
Was it
Really?
in BYU? I think it was BYU.
That they had
Or
to crack.
stake president had to finally say, hey, guess what, guys?
It counts. That counts. I mean, my gosh. Yeah, you can still catch stuff that way. So, after that happened, like, did he drive you home?
Yes.
Oh, and then...
I was very quiet on the way home. I didn't talk at all. I went to bed, felt really, really weird, kind of sick to my stomach. The next morning...
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Between the physical and the drugs, like, I can't imagine.
Yeah.
Anyway. Okay, so you go home, pass out, pretty much.
Yep. It was very late. It felt like 11:30.
Do you think that did your mom and grandma live there?
My mom lived with me at the time.
Do you think she knew what was,
I think so.
like, did she say anything to you? Like,
No. It seemed, looking back at it, that she knew about the ritual and she figured it would make me fall in love with him.
yeah.
I'm sure there was some ecstasy involved that gives you that love feeling.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So
then you wake up the next day
and it was
feeling
his...
hungover, probably. Like,
I was tired, yeah.
yeah.
But I got up, got dressed for church. It was his mission farewell.
See, that makes sense, the timing, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And so you had to go sit there in church, and
Yeah, I was in sacrament meeting, and as soon...
the whole meeting was about his
About him.
farewell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As soon as he got up on that stand, I had a panic attack to the point where I was curled up in a ball, and my neighbor, my mom, was laughing. She thought I was sad he was leaving. But my neighbor, who kind of acted like my father at the time, he picked me up physically and held me in his arms and walked me out and drove me home, which later on I had to go to the hospital, and my heart was so affected that they said it was at heart attack levels.
Well, and that could have been the drugs, too.
Very,
You
very
know,
true.
Not just the stress.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
combination of,
Everything,
yeah.
yeah. It's very traumatizing.
The mental trauma, the physical trauma, the drugs. And they
Combination of
wonder why
everything.
it sounds so crazy. Because it is crazy.
It is crazy. I'm the first to admit everything that happened to me is crazy, but that's the point.
Right.
You make someone crazy, you make them so confused.
Well, who's going to believe? Like, a good going Mormon who never experienced anything like this, how would they ever believe it? They know exactly what they're doing, in my
exactly.
opinion.
They use those people so they can get away with it, though.
Right. To enable. Yeah.
Yep.
So, so then he goes on his mission, comes back home,
Yeah.
and by then were you still around?
I got married to someone else. I got married at 17.
Nice. Oh, well, not nice.
No. It was a escape. It was a desperate escape.
Just to get out of the house. Yeah. And was that...
I was terrified of him.
And where did you guys live?
I grew up in Magna. We both grew up in Magna.
So, and the guy you married?
Oh, no.
Where did you live by then?
When we got married, we moved to West Valley, I think.
West Valley. So when he came home, did he look you up? Did he?
No, it wasn't until I got divorced as he looked me up. Well, my mom told him where I was.
Probably thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so he met you, or what? Did you
Yeah,
guys
he
talk
did.
in person?
He actually did take me on a date.
Thinking that he was maybe gonna
I'm not
get back
sure.
together with you, or do you
It
think he
looked
was
very-
looking to reconcile?
He
or-
looked so torturous by it. He admitted that he was molested by his uncle on that date when he was a kid. I think he was trying to tell me something, but
like trying to maybe say he was sorry, but
well, how do you admit to that and not think you're going to go to jail?
right.
You know, I mean, they put him in such a
I mean,
tough spot.
I almost feel bad for him because
Right. I get that.
I'm sure that he experienced horrific things himself.
Absolutely.
I just think of myself at 24, and I would have never done such a thing. But it's every situation is different.
Every situation is different. He did make the wrong choice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't matter how victimized you are. You have a choice.
Right. At a certain point, you've got... I mean, I think that's what's so... It's a complex issue because you've got someone who was abused, well, both of you were, from a very early age.
Yeah.
When are you able to draw the line?
Yeah. I
You know,
mean,
depending on the severity of the abuse. But at some point, I would think by 24, I don't know. It's really hard. That's a really complex situation.
it is complex. And I have a hard time. I don't hate him. I don't. But I also don't think that he's a good person.
Yeah. I don't even have words.
Yeah.
Because it's so hard to put myself in his shoes. I feel really lucky that I figured things out
Right.
very early.
Right.
But anyway. Well, Rebekah, is there anything else that you want to talk about? Or
I don't know. Do you have any questions?
I don't. I don't. Other than... I always wonder how we got through it all. Sometimes I just.
Yeah.
What would you what advice would you give someone who is maybe experiencing something similar to this? If they find themselves in a situation where they realize that they've maybe been forced to do something they didn't want to, or they know that something's going on that shouldn't be, what would you...
My advice is just to gather together with other victims. We're stronger in numbers. We can help each other understand what happened. There are people in different levels of our healing, and there are so many people who can help the ones just beginning their healing come out of their hell. Once you're out of your hell, you're a normal person.
Yeah. You know, I hear a lot of people say, don't go to your religious leaders, go to the police, but I'm telling you what, in this state, that doesn't always go so
They're
well.
usually religious leaders.
And so I really think that's some sound advice, is to seek out other victims, victim advocates.
There are a lot of bullies and people who were predators that became policemen. So
Yeah.
you see it a lot.
Oh, I know.
I'm not saying they're all bad, but
I know a rape victim that was raped by a cop when she reported her rape. So yeah.
yeah. My advice is to gather with victims.
And a counselor. I know
Oh,
a
counselors,
woman.
there you go.
I know a woman that was actually raped by her counselor. So
Yes.
advocacy groups are a really good place to start, I think, because they can give you the best advice. And you can always reach out
Point
to
you to
me.
good counselors.
You can always reach out to Rebekah, I would guess.
Absolutely.
So, Rebekah, thanks for telling your story.
Thank you for having me.